Hello and welcome back for another video on ARK Survival Ascended. Today I'll be showcasing 5 new creature mods that you should consider trying. Most of these mods have released in the past month and can be played cross-platform, so without further ado, let's get straight into it. Kicking off the list is the cockatrice from Wild Waghorn, a very peculiar looking creature. I believe they are a hybrid of snake and bird. Kinda scary looking, but I love it. You can find the cockatrice rarely spawning in the swamp and typically inside of caves when playing the island, the dunes when playing Scorched Earth, and the bioluminescent zone when playing Aberration. So taming one can be a task in itself because these are not the friendliest of locations, shall we say. So how do you tame it? Well, believe it or not, it is tamed passively, with its own unique taming method similar to that of an Equus and Andrewsarchus. Firstly, you will need a metal shield. Let it aggro to you, and when it performs its attack animation to petrify, hold up your shield which will temporarily stun it, where you can mount it and begin the minigame. I did of course mess this level 145 tame up, as I chose not to kill off another cockatrice in the area, and his mate was not happy with me at all, which of course interrupted me when I was taming it. So definitely clear out the area of any hostile creatures before you begin the taming process. Anyway, you'll have to follow the button prompts on screen of either up or down by using the W and S keys on PC or the left analog stick on controller, and also the feed-in prompt, which can be performed by pressing E on PC and I believe Y on Xbox and triangle on PlayStation. Their preferred food is black pearls, so be sure to equip those in your final hotbar slot, and that's all there is to it. Luckily, it does appear that the taming effectiveness goes up every time you feed it a black pearl, so my messed up tame ended up taming up with 100% taming effectiveness, which is pretty sweet. Once tamed, the saddle can be unlocked at a whopping level 82, so it's definitely not an early game tame. Stats wise, it has a decent health stat with a damage output probably slightly better than a raptor, I would say, a very high weight stat which it will definitely need. It's said to be an upgrade to the Doedicurus, an exceptional stone harvester with a 75% weight reduction for it and a wide variety of weight reduction for many other heavy resources. It has 2 melee attacks, a regular kick and a jump kick attack, with the jump kick dealing slightly more damage. When pressing the crouch key, it will go into what is called the Petrify stance, which can either be aimed directly at a target or as an AoE attack affecting targets in range. It basically freezes the target in place for 8 seconds. Any petrified targets will take increased damage. It can also jump and glide, not the best glide by any means, but it can jump in the air extending its glide distance, but this does drain its stamina very quickly. I see it as more of a parachute if anything, but it's cool nonetheless. And finally, the cockatrice has the unique ability of converting organic substances into non-spoilable substances. For example, when harvesting chitin, it will convert it into cementing paste, and when harvesting organic polymer, will convert it into hard polymer. I did have trouble harvesting a penguin when riding it. It could, however, harvest them no problem when unridden and set to aggressive. With all that being said, the cockatrice will definitely be a sweet addition to any playthrough. Up next, we have the Nyctotyrannus from Bluescape's modding. I am a big fan of this dino. The awesome thing about it is that the mod adds 4 different subspecies of the Nycta, with all having their own unique abilities. This beast is a mid-sized predator, slightly smaller than a T-Rex and sharing similar stats to it. Found in the same locations that you will find a T-Rex, all variants are tamed via typical knockup methods and prefer different tiers of kibble. Saddled up at level 80 requiring 0 engram points, the Echidna has a spiky appearance representing spikes running down its back. This is not just for cosmetic purposes, as it utilizes them as a means of ranged attacks. One being the spike shot, firing spikes from its tail, and the second being a spike shake. Both attacks will deal a substantial amount of torpor to the target and a small amount of health damage, but can definitely be used to knock out certain creatures, although can take a while and does pose a high risk of killing the creature rather than knocking it out, but it can still be done. I did also notice that the Echidna does also deal a small amount of reflected damage to any targets that land a hit on it. It isn't much, but every little helps. The Nyctotyrannus Rex is probably going to be everyone's go-to battle mount, as it does have a charge bite attack at its disposal. This works in a similar way as the Deinosuchus Gigabyte ability, but not as strong. However, it does still deal quite a lot of damage. The Nycta Rex is also equipped with a buffing roar, which will grant a 10% damage increase to nearby allied theropods. The final tameable variant is the Imperator, which also has some very cool abilities. Equipped with a cloak to mask mask itself at the cost of its own stamina stat, which works similar to the Rock Drake's cloak, and also a roar which is similar to the Nycta Rex. However, instead of boosting allied theropod attack damage by 10%, it will increase their damage resistance by 10%. All three are equipped with an alternate venom bite attack which drains a small amount of health damage to the target over time, and also a tail swipe attack which, to be honest, doesn't work very well at all, but at least it looks cool. They can also jump, which is kind of like a baby jump, so I don't really know if this is going to be useful for anything. And finally, there is also a fourth variant of Nycta that you can find spawning throughout your world, which is the alpha variant, having a large health pool and just like vanilla alphas with some unique attacks. It has a roar that causes targets to deal less damage to it, and its bite attack kind of has a bleed attack that will slowly drain the target's health over time, so it can be rather deadly for unprepared survivors. Once slain, you will be rewarded with some tasty loot and high quality saddles and blueprints for your own Nycta Tyrannus. Beautiful. If you are a Gigantopithecus lover, then the Better Bigfoots mod from Love Pie could be a great mod for you to try. Found roaming in the exact same habitat as their vanilla counterparts, deep in the Redwoods forest, and tamed via typical sneak up behind them with taming food in your final hotbar slot and shove it up their bum methods. This mod is everything I think the Gigantopithecus should have been. Well, almost. It definitely does need a little bit of tweaking, but you can equip them with weaponry and extra armor. So for example, you can equip them with a shield, which can give them up to 90% damage reduction, which is pretty big in the game. The cool thing they can do is auto harvest resources for you, so you can equip them with a high quality pickaxe or hatchet, stick them on wander, and they will harvest rocks, trees, carcasses, and gather resources the same way a player would gather them, determined by which tool you equip them with. So stick them on the top of the volcano, for example, they will gather metal and obsidian. Stick them in the forest with a metal hatchet and they will gather you wood and stone. The massive downside here is that they have 0 weight reduction for any of these heavy resources, and their weight stat isn't great. So this really does need to be a feature for them to be more viable. On the plus point, you can also equip them with an Ascendant Sword, where they are able to deal ridiculous damage. I'd go as far to say it's a little too much damage if anything. I figured there's no better way to test them out than to head into battle against the mighty Megapithecus and get me some of that gorilla on gorilla action. And well, they absolutely obliterated him in a matter of seconds. I couldn't believe how quickly they killed it. Of course, this is just Gamma, but they killed it so fast that they didn't even take any damage. It's a really fun mod, I just feel like it needs a few more tweaks to be perfect, if you know what I mean. Moving up the food chain, we have the Laylaps from Ice Crooked, an interesting reptile-like dinosaur. I'm not even sure what it is, but it's cool. Kinda looks like a mini Godzilla with the biggest tongue you've ever seen. You'll find them spawning in the same locations as you'd find a Rex. So for example, Carno Island will be great if playing the island, Lava Island if playing the center. On Scorched Earth, they share spawns with the Utyrannus, and there is also an aberrant variant which looks absolutely beautiful, by the way, and these can be found sharing spawns with the Spino in the green and red zones. So to tame this beast, you will need to knock it out. They do seem relatively sluggish in the wild, so I just dismount a tanky tame to grab its attention and just knock it out that way. Their preferred kibble is extraordinary, but can also be tamed just like any other carnivore in the game with any type of meat if you do not have access to kibble. Once tamed, they can be saddled up at level 73, which can be crafted in the fabricator. Firstly, it does have a roar, which is terrifying, by the way. Look at that tongue go. I wouldn't want to get in the way of that thing. The roar does actually have a purpose where it can detect wild, tamed, and enemy creatures or players. This roar can also detect nearby explorer notes, which works the exact same way as the Direwolf Sniff ability. They have 2 different attacks, a regular bite attack and also a stomp attack, which causes pretty decent knockback to ground targets and deals slightly more damage than the bite attack. They can also jump ridiculously high and far. The Laylaps definitely didn't skip leg day, that's for sure. They're also equipped with a passive ability where they receive the same rivalry buff of the Triceratops when close to a large predator. For example, anything the size of a Rex or above, the effect will increase the Laylap's base health and buffs its damage and damage resistance by 10%. This buff also occurs when allied large predators are nearby. The mod does also add its own alpha variant of the Laylaps, which is the Vintage Laylaps. How cool does this thing look though? I'm a big fan. This beast can be killed for a chance of finding yourself a Vintage Laylaps costume, which when equipped to your own Laylaps and when ridden will turn your screen into a TV show from the 1950s. So it's a pretty cool feature if you are a fan of this this type of thing. The final new mod I wanted to showcase is the Paleo ARK Evo Plus Native Aquatics from Up From The Depths. This mod adds 2 new species of creatures, the obelisk squid and the Cryptoclydus, which will most definitely add some beauty and spice to the oceans of ARK. Both of these creatures are typically found spawning near beaches close to the ocean surface or in the shallow parts of the ocean, and will also spawn alongside each other. I believe they share spawns with the Ichthyosaurus. Let's talk about the obelisk squid first. When we think of squid, we think of the dangerous Tusoteuthis. However, the obelisk squid is harmless and if provoked will dart away at lightning fast speeds. They can be tamed with a fish basket if you did want to tame one, but sadly for them their main purpose is being slaughtered due to their delicious taste. Once killed, they can be harvested for spoilable oil and raw calamari, which is the preferred taming food of the Cryptoclydus, which leads us on perfectly to it. So to tame one of these beauties, the first thing to mention is that they are piscivores, so you will be needing raw fish meat, raw prime fish meat or raw calamari in your final hotbar slot. Press the action key to feed, and this level 145 tamed up instantly after one chomp on my tasty calamari. And I must say, wow, these things are beautiful. It's like a mini Plessy but pretty, because let's be honest, the Plessy is the ugliest thing in the game, and I might even consider taming a Plessy if they looked like this. And if you are wondering, yes, there is an aberrant variant that will spawn on aberration, and it's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Feel like I'm saying that word a lot, but it's true. How cute is this boy? Anyway, the saddle can be unlocked at the low level of 25, so you'll be able to tame one of these bad boys in the early stages of the game. Stats are pretty decent for how small it is. I don't really use aquatic creatures all that much, so I don't really have anything to compare it to, but if I'm going to compare it to something, I'd probably say they're around twice as strong as the Ichthy, if you can call the Ichthy strong. Equipped with a regular bite attack and also a spin attack, both dealing the same amount of damage. They are great traversal mounts, boasting a very quick swimming speed and low stamina drain, great for covering long distances. Also able to jump out of the water a bit like a manta while performing double kick flips if you choose to. A great way to improve on those flip tricks if I do say so myself. However, they can also make their way to land, which is awesome. They have plenty more tricks up their sleeve. When 2 organic oil is inside their inventory, they will passively produce a substance called Cryptoclydus gel. This has no spoil timer and can be used to either burn like angler gel or can be consumed by the player or force fed to any tame creature, giving that player or creature full immunity to the jellyfish stun and dismount for the duration of 5 minutes. The jellyfish will never be feared again once you have yourself a Cryptoclydus. Even without force feeding the gel, the Cryptoclydus is fully immune to the jellyfish stun and dismount. It does, however, still take damage from their attacks. Adding to this, when riding your Cryptoclydus, they will always have their veil passive active. It kind of works the same way as when a player is wearing ghillie armor, massively decreasing the aggro radius of aggressive predators. And I must admit, it's pretty good. You can get very close to predators without any aggro at all. There is also a charge bar for this veil, which can be filled up by killing the obelisk squid. When at full, it can use the group veil ability, which gives nearby allies in range the same veil effect for 60 seconds. They can also gather silica pearls with their primary attack, which will definitely be useful for the early game silica pearl struggle. Last thing to mention is that when breeding them, you'll need them to be underwater. Once the babies pop out, you can have them follow you to shore, where they can be raised on land from there. Just be sure not to forget your raw fish meat, as when I had my first bunch of babies, I fed them raw meat, and they all died, so we definitely don't want that. And that is going to be the end of the video. I hope you all enjoyed it, and if you did, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Take care, goodbye.